All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Tim Donnelly here. Tim Donnelly is currently running for governor in the state of California. You heard me mention nullify the NSA, or the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012. AB 351 was authored by Tim Donnelly, and it passed unanimously through the committees all the way up to a vote before the state legislature, and it got passed. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tim Donnelly running for governor of the state of California.
Okay, like that, huh? Wow, what a delight it is to be here today. I'm really honored. You know, I keep hearing about oath keepers everywhere I go. And then I think I saw a couple of you guys on TV this weekend in Nevada. You know what, I gotta tell you that the way we're gonna take back our country is not going to be on the inside of the building. We're going to do it in the streets. And we're going to get people excited. And we're going to face off against a government that wants to have more control over us, and it won't control itself. You know what? I want my freedom back. I want my state back. I came to this state with $300 in my pocket when I was 19 years old. I will never forget the day that I left Michigan. I'm the third oldest of 14 kids. And we lived in a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom home. And yeah, that half a bathroom was real important in the morning, let me tell you. About half my brothers and sisters helped me push start my VW bug. And I turned to wave goodbye when they were inside fighting over my room. My dad chased me halfway down the street and gave me $2 in quarters. He said, "Son, whatever you do, don't call home." He said, "Get yourself a Coke somewhere between here and California." You know, I should have been worried. I should have been nervous. But I knew where I was going. I was going to the land of opportunity. I was going to California. I was going to what was the freest state in the Union. I was going to the land of sun and fun and Ronald Reagan instead. We got doom and gloom and Jerry Brown. You know, I traveled through a whole lot of states. Some of them were pretty. I went through Texas and didn't much feel like staying. But when I crossed into California, something changed. When I got down to the beach and saw my first California sunset, I fell in love. I knew I was in a place where the only limitation on my dreams is what I could imagine, how hard I was willing to work. And you know, within a decade, I had met and married the most amazing woman in the state of California. She was a young widow with 2 boys. As a matter of fact, one of my boys is here tonight. Daniel, where are you? Oh, I think he's outside bringing in yard signs. 16 now, you know. But, there he is. You should have seen him when we went to the high school campus, and there were 300 kids, and he was handing out these Got Liberty bracelets, and the girls just mobbed him. But I got to tell you know, I started my own business. And I was living the California dream. And I just wanted to be left alone. But along came the government. And we all know the rest of that story. You know, they regulated me out of business by driving my customers out of the state with oppressive regulations and confiscatory tax rates. And you know what? I want my boys to have that same opportunity that I had. I want them to be able to live the California dream without having to leave the state of California to do it. In order to do that, we got to get rid of Jerry Brown. 2014 is the year we can take back our state. You know, Jerry Brown's last 4 years started 40 years ago. He took California from first to last in everything that matters. Remember when our education system was the envy of the world? And now we're circling the drain, 48th in reading, 49th in math. We're competing with Alabama and Mississippi and losing. California shouldn't be losing at anything. You know, when it comes to freedom, they tried to dismantle the Second Amendment piece by piece and bit by bit and bullet by bullet. And Jerry Brown signed a lead ammo ban that is essentially a ban on hunting. You know what? We can do this. My first day as governor, I will declare a moratorium on all new restrictions on your business, on your freedom, and on your constitutional, civil, and natural rights. Because our rights don't come from government. You know, the Second Amendment did not confer any new rights on Americans. It simply acknowledged our existing natural rights, and we derive those from the Creator. And government's role is to protect them, safeguard them. And you all know what's happened. You know, when a government becomes the greatest threat to the very rights it was formed to protect, that's tyranny. In tyranny, we don't have any modern day words for it, but we have a whole lot of modern day examples. With the NSA spying on us, with the IRS trying to silence us. You know, I got a bill that I'm running on the NSA. Did you guys hear about it? Well, I figure if they want to try to violate our rights on California soil, then we, the people of the state of California, have a right to turn off their water and turn off their power. Yeah! We need to get California on a pathway to prosperity. It's real simple. We need to unleash California's potential by tapping the Monterey Shale. We ought to frack our way to prosperity and drill our way to prosperity rather than sitting on an ocean of oil and importing it from our enemies.
Amen.
And you know what? USC has done a study and said that it would create up to 3 million new jobs in the state of California and $25 to $30 billion in new revenues over a 5-year period. That means we could get California working again and start paying down that mountain of debt instead of just standing there and staring at it. You can clap. How many of you have heard of the miracle in North Dakota? See, their unemployment rate is under 3%. And they don't have a governor pushing a $10 or $15 an hour minimum wage as an artificial floor under the economy because McDonald's is paying $20 an hour plus a signing bonus. Wow. You know, that's what happens when you get the government out of the way of the free market. That's the bounty of liberty. We need to bring liberty to the state of California. You know what? I love this state. But I hate what the Marxist progressives parading as Democrats have done to it.
Yes.
And you know, I've heard a lot of people say Democrats are the enemies. Democrats are not the enemies. Tyranny is the enemy of freedom. Democrats are neighbors. Democrats are our friends, the people we work with, we go to church with. Most importantly, Democrats are Americans. My grandparents were Democrats. You know what? I believe we can unite a divided majority on American values, hard work, personal responsibility, and above all, freedom. And And I believe we can do it in 2014. Because the question of 2014 is not about whether we're going to be ruled by the right or by the left. The question of 2014 is whether we're going to take a stand for right over wrong. And you know, that question is going to be answered when we look into the eyes of our children's children. And when we tell them about an epic battle that we waged to defend freedom and the American way of life. Or we could just tell them stories about a place called California that used to be free. That's the question. You're the answer. I want you to help me take out Jerry Brown and replace him with Tim Donnelly for governor. But I can't do this alone. And you know, at this point in the speech, most candidates would pull out an envelope and ask you for money. And I have found that to be a very effective model. Because I intend to win. You know, each and every one of you can do something. The maximum you can give is $27,200, and if you can do that, I want to talk to you afterwards. But I didn't get here with those kind of checks. I got here with people giving me $2 and $5 and $10, and some people can write checks for $500 and $1,000. If you can do that, I want you to prayerfully consider that. Because right now we have a standing army that we need to arm. And we need to give them more yard signs and more printed material because we're running out. The very last yard signs that we have in the state of California arrived here tonight in my vehicle. So there is incredible demand for what we're selling. And in case you wonder, I am at 17% in the polls, and my nearest Republican opponent is at 2%. But I'm not only going to ask you for money because we also need your help. We need you to spread the message to your family and your friends on Facebook and Twitter and everything else. I see we got the Twitter team here tonight. All right, Gary. But also, you might know somebody who can write a bigger check than you can, and if you know them, I want you to ask them on my behalf. But also, you can take over your neighborhood. You can walk your precinct, or you can be part of our virtual phone bank, and you can volunteer on this envelope. So I want you to get one of these in your hands and commit to what you can do before you leave here tonight. And the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is the most important. I'm going to ask you to pray. You know, my first election, I had more people praying for me than voting for me. And I'm not only going to ask you to pray for me and my family, but also for our state and for our country. Because what's at stake is literally whether or not we're going to pass on a birthright of freedom. And I believe that we can start a political revolution in the state of California that will spread across this country. And it starts here tonight. God bless you and Godspeed.
Okay, as you know, the aqueduct, California aqueduct in the state of California has been closed up, and the Central Valley is virtually a dust bowl, about 3/4 of that valley. What is it, if you get elected, you think you can do about releasing that water to the farms and the farm? I mean, they've taken a lot of agriculture away from California. California used to be one of the greatest agricultural producing areas in the United States.
Through the snow.
Yeah, I usually talk about that in my speech, but I know you guys were waiting a long time for me to get here, so I kind of cut it out, but I'm so glad you asked me that. Jerry Brown wants his legacy to be the high-speed rail. I think we ought to finish it off. And then we ought to build a high-speed waterway and the government-created dust bowl in the Central Valley. And you know what? It's real simple. They had a plan a whole long time ago, and it was an aqueduct instead of a tunnel underneath. And I don't know if we can do that, but I can tell you one thing, we can turn on those pumps, and if 4 buckets of minnows have to die so we can feed the world, so be it. But let them not die in vain. Because I think we should grind them up and spread them out over the field as fertilizer. And then, what is lacking is not just rainfall, it's vision. We need to be increasing storage at every dam we have. We need to be building more dams.
The question was, how do you plan on giving our farmers back water?
Yeah, I was answering that.
No, you're talking about, I want to know what you plan on doing about it.
I plan on turning on the damn pumps
How?
with a switch. Yeah, I've been up there and I've looked at them. And the bottom line is, right now, what they've done,
Where's that switch located at, sir?
what they've done,
Where's that switch located?
what they have done is they have turned off the water because we don't have enough water. And they have not stored any in the bad years.
Sir, respectfully, I don't believe that you actually have a handle on this. Because it starts at the Colorado River. How do you plan, as a politician, you come and you tell us this stuff, and we've been lied to time and time again. Pardon me for being cynical. However, what do you plan on doing about, because the impending doom of famine in this country is looming across us, how do you plan on turning back and giving the power back to the farmers to feed? That was the question. I appreciate all the grand gestures and all the political speech writing, but what do you plan on doing?
Okay. Well, all I can talk about is what I know. I don't know everything. But I've been up there. And I've walked through those pumps. And the bottom line is that...
Where was the pumps? He's on your side,
Okay.
dude. Where?
Okay. Are you gonna let me answer the question, or are you gonna talk me to death? I mean, if you're gonna get out a sniper and just shoot me with 1 bullet instead of having a 50 caliber machine gun. Look, I can tell that you're angry. So am I. Because California's government has become the greatest threat to the #1 industry in the state of California. And you know what? I had nothing to do with that. I've been in office exactly 4 years. Up until that point, my entire involvement in government was writing them checks. So the bottom line is that what we need to do is we need to harvest some of that water that is coming down, that they just let it be used to flush out the Delta, because Sacramento uses the Delta as a toilet. And so does Tracy, and so does San Francisco. And you know what happens? It creates way too much ammonia. And when you put too much ammonia in there, you wind up killing that little fish that's on the endangered species list. Well, I think we need to get that fish off the endangered species list, and we need to actually understand that what's endangered in the state of California are jobs, opportunity, and freedom. And that's it. And you know what? If you have more knowledge than I do, I would love to hear it afterwards. What's your question, sir?
Yeah, not if, but when we come into a situation similar to the Nevada Bundy Ranch situation, how would you handle that? And would you acknowledge and call into effect a legal California militia to help with law enforcement and National Guard?
Well, I already formed a legal California militia known as the Minutemen, and I went to the state of California. I went down to the border. I almost went to Nevada.
It fell apart, though.
What's that?
It fell apart visibly. If we had a situation like the Bundy Ranch situation, what would be your stance on it? Having federal employees come in there, would you kick them out, or would you follow in suit like the Nevada government?
I was planning to go to Nevada to stand with Clive. Period. And for me, the states have the power. And when the federal government comes in and encroaches it, the question is whether or not we're going to have a governor who will actually take a stand. I will stand with the people. And that's it. Who?
He's running for governor.
You're talking with the guy from Redlands?
Yes.
Well, I've been elected and I have a record. And in my record, what I've done is I have actually defended our liberty here in the state of California from the NDAA and from federal encroachment, so that on California soil, we will not cooperate with the federal government in indefinitely detaining anyone under the color of terrorism. And they would probably have each and every one of you on a list somewhere, because I know I'm on a bunch of them. Well, but that's what I've done. And the other thing I've done is I've traveled all over the state of California, and I have built up enough name ID to where I actually have a chance of winning the primary. And then I intend to win the general election so that we actually will have a voice. And the bottom line is, there really isn't anybody else who has any chance in this race. I have nothing against Newman. He seems like a nice fellow.
Some of your people running against you would say that you're weak on the Second Amendment. What is your plan for turning over a lot of the bullshit laws that I think have been held up in the state level?
Well, that would be the very first time I've ever heard anybody say I'm weak on the Second Amendment. Somebody better call the papers. I don't even know what to say about that. I have fought against, in every case, every bill that's come forth, but that's not enough. We have to go on the offensive. California is a shall-issue state, whether they acknowledge it or not. But the Constitution gives us that right now. The question is whether you're going to exercise it. And as governor, I will be a governor who will go on the offensive and use that bully pulpit to undo the damage that they've done to the Second Amendment. Yes, sir.
Donnelly, I have a hypothetical question for you. In 2016, the Republican primaries, came down to it, you vote for either Senator Rand Paul or former Governor of Florida, Jeb Bush.
I had dinner with Rand Paul the other night, and I would never vote for Jeb Bush.
In the last presidential election, did you support Dr. Ron Paul?
That's who I voted for.
Thank you, sir.
You mentioned before on the border, kind of can't visit with all the rest of the people down there. So I know you're pro-Second Amendment because we're on that. But if you're governor, what tools would you use to secure the border in California?
Well, the very first tool we need to use is to stop incentivizing and paying people with benefits to come here the wrong way. We're giving them free college tuition. And look, I'm not just talking about that. When all the other politicians were going to Hawaii on the lobbyist dime, I spent 4 months, well, about 3.5 months, traveling the state of California with 10,000 volunteers trying to repeal the DREAM Act. That's what I did. And I believe it's really important to look at somebody's record when they're not getting paid. And when I was the leader of the Minutemen in the state of California, that was something I did as a service. And I did it because I knew that we had troops in harm's way, and I didn't want them to come home. And I didn't want to look them in the eye and say, I left the back door of our country open while you were out defending my freedom. So I think that it is important to look beyond somebody's flowery words, as one fellow over here said, and look at their record and what they've done. I don't have every answer to every single thing, but I believe that the people do. I believe there's a lot of wisdom. There's a repository of wisdom with the people. You got a question?
Yes, with the registration of Obamacare, I understand that a lot of people get their cards and information sent back to them. They're already pre-marked with party information, Democrat, whether they aren't Democrat, whether they send that card to Democrat. What are you going to do about that?
I've already written a letter of inquiry, and I'm waiting for an answer. because that's a very serious offense. I'm the vice chairman of elections, and I find it offensive that every time I turn around, they're looking for another way to illegally use state resources to increase their power, because what they do is they redistribute our freedom and our wealth in exchange for power and votes. And that's illegal, and that is absolutely immoral. You had a question there, sir.
My question is in regards to what you said about fracking. Is there going to be any kind of regulation on what they pump back into the earth?
I didn't hear anything about fracking, but I'll answer your question. As far as fracking goes, what they use right now for fracking fluid is 99.5% water and sand. That's it. And then a 0.5% are some sort of mostly household chemicals. And in California, the water table's at about 500 feet, and they're fracking at 1.5 miles below the surface. And in 60 years of fracking, they've never had a single incident. Now, to tap the Monterey Shale, the biggest impediment right now is government interference. It ought to be technology, because they don't really have all the technology they need. They're not going to invest in it unless they know that we're going to give them the green light. And the bottom line is, I've talked to people who frack for a living, and they say, we drink the same water. We drink the water right near where we work, so we're not going to do anything to poison our environment. And until I see any evidence, and the evidence I've seen, I haven't seen anything. When I asked the experts who came to testify in a committee, and they swore an oath to tell the truth, and they told us the nearest they could find a problem was Pennsylvania. And there was an incident there, but it doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing in California. So I'm absolutely in favor of protecting our water and protecting our air, but the greatest threat to you in the state of California right now, the greatest threat to your health is a lack of a job.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
It just so happens that today I was put in a
A
position.
little louder, please, sir.
I can't hear you.
It just so happens that today I was put in a position to create thousands of jobs because of an invention I discovered. Now, the guy wants to put those jobs in Mexico. And I don't want to do that. I want to do it here in Southern California. I have my card available. I give it to your son. And I would like to show you after how to make those jobs happen. And it has a lot to do with petroleum and more things.
Okay, great. I like it.
Okay, one more question.
You're the one.
How educated have you become in this monstrosity called Common Core?
Well, I held a meeting on Common Core in Yorba Linda about 8 days ago, along with Janice Chappelle and a bunch of her friends. And as a matter of fact, I just did Glenn Beck's show on the Blaze with a lady who was told she had no business returning to campus. She was banned. They sent the police to her house. Yes. No, to a parent, because her son was handing out opt-out forms. And I can tell you that when some of the people were handing out forms just for the meeting, they were told that if you don't stop, we're going to call the police and have you arrested. And I can tell you right now that I told my friend, I said, get yourself arrested because you'll become a rock star in this environment. We need to take a stand on every one of these issues. That is a dumbing down of our curriculum. It is government indoctrination where we've given the centralized government complete control. And it's time that we take back our power from this government that wants to control us and demand that they control themselves, starting with how much they spend. And you know what, as governor, I will control the budget. I will present a spending plan, and I will promise you right here tonight that I will present a plan where we spend less than we take in. Because the greatest threat to our economic future is a government that overspends and can confiscate more and more of your earnings and then redistribute them in exchange for votes. And that's what they've been doing. And they are owned and controlled by special interests, including these public sector unions that have almost absolute control, and then they legally bribe politicians to increase their fiefdom. And you know what happens when government grows, liberty contracts. And when government expands, opportunity shrinks. And we've watched it hit the highway for far too long. You know what I want? I want to have an immigration problem in California where we have a tsunami of U-Hauls coming back from Rick Perry's Texas, coming home to California. God bless you and Godspeed.
One more question, Kim Harris, right here.
Oh, you're going to let Kim Harris talk? Yes, I touched very briefly on the National Defense Authorization Act and the fact that I had that nullified here in the state of California. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. And Oath Keepers does want to thank you for